All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call the Tazewell County Board meeting. John, if you could call the roll.
Atkins?
Here.
Crawford? Deppert?
Here.
Mark Goddard?
Here.
Samuel Goddard? Here. Graff?
Here.
Hagman?
Here.
Hall?
Here.
Harris?
Here.
Josting?
Here.
Crable?
Here.
Longfellow?
Here.
Mennel?
Here.
Mingus?
Here.
Nelms?
Here.
Paget?
Here.
Frail?
Here.
Rich Simpson?
Here.
Schneider?
Here.
Sin?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Chairman Zimmerman?
Here.
Yep.
We have a quorum. We'll do business. If we could rise for the invocation and pledge. Heavenly Father, we humbly come before you tonight as we deliberate the county's business. I pray that we can do it in a spirit of humility, in a spirit of doing what's best for all the citizens of Tazewell County. I'd like to lift up Sue Beanie tonight as she begins a new season of life next week as she retires from Tazewell County. She'll be sorely missed, and we wish her well as she moves on. I'd like to lift up Libby Asherman at Animal Control. She lost her father this last month. I pray that as the great comforter that she could feel your peace as she goes through this difficult time. And I lift up the Covenant School children and parents in Nashville, Tennessee, that even though we don't understand the evil we see in this world, we know that you're a sovereign God, and we take peace in that. Thank you for these board members. I pray that you give us wisdom tonight as we debate these issues. Thank you for our employees and what an awesome job they do for us. We just thank you for them. And thank you for the citizens, Father. I pray that the decisions we make tonight honor them and are what's best for all of us involved. We love you, Lord, and we pray all these things in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, communications from the public and county employees, we have 3 tonight. I'd like to start out with Deborah Montgomery.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the board, and in particular Nick, for suggesting a 30-day pause on the destruction of the buildings and moving forward. I'd also like to suggest again that the alternative plan be taken a look at. Matthew Johnson has come up with yet another plan that I think might be something that would be interesting to all of you. And again, it is something that could easily be done, and that way we could all be winners in this situation. So that's really all I had. Just thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Roy Paget.
Just want to say I'm here as any other public person that comes up. I'm not here speaking as a board member. I circulated something to all the board. Some of you probably have not had a chance to read it, but basically we need to do some discussion, and I think some of them are going to put this forward, regarding understanding of conflicts of interest and disqualifying bias. In general, I think it's understood that most municipal officials who has a conflict of interest in a specific situation is not supposed to participate in that matter. In Illinois, we see this type of thing all the time, and I have personally found out that it practically takes an act of God to get anyone to pay attention and actually take steps to fix such problems. It's So what is a recusal? And this is where it hits the heart of what I want to talk about. Recusal is when an official decides not to participate in something when they have a conflict of interest. The word is recuse. To recuse is to remove oneself as a participant for the purpose of avoiding a conflict of interest. When is a recusal appropriate? In general, recusal is appropriate when an official has a conflict of interest with respect to a specific matter, or when the official is biased and cannot act impartially. One of the most troubling situations is when we face, as county officials, is when we face an angry citizen or a group that claims an official or officials should not participate in the matter because of a conflict of interest. A charge of conflict of interest often implies unethical behavior. It is a charge that goes to the heart of the people's trust in their government and questions the personal motives of an elected and appointed official. After all, in this context, conflict of interest involves an official who has a conflict with the public interest. Consequently, it's something that all officials should be aware of and consider carefully. Now, the Illinois statute governing conflicts of interest prohibits any public official from having any interest in any contact or the performance of any work in making or letting of which such officers may be called upon to act or vote. That's 50 ILCS 105.3, and Counselor will double S that, which follows citing sections of the legal code. Now, the basic rule is that the conflict of interest requiring recusal will be found when an official has the personal or financial interest in the outcome of a matter. It's not just financial. The reason for this rule are obvious. A man cannot serve two masters. For this rule, it's important because the public interest must not be jeopardized by the acts of the public official who has a personal or financial interest which is or may be in conflict with the public.
So we're well past 3 minutes, or you about wrapped up? 3 minutes are our rules.
Oh, I thought it was 5.
No, 3.
Okay, I didn't get that memo. So, I'll just go ahead and conclude. It's important for all local officials to understand what it means to recuse themselves when it's appropriate and what the consequences may be if a disqualified person participates in an official action. Not only may it result in an invalidation of the board's action, but defending a court challenge uses municipal resources that might be better spent elsewhere. In addition, retention of the public trust is a significant factor that should play into every official's decision when a potential conflict of interest is at stake. This is all in everyone's board email. You can read the rest of it since I've been cut short on time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We need a copy up here too. Okay. So our last speaker is Tim Bear.
I want to begin by noting that I have attended many Tazewell County Board meetings for most of a year now, and have observed that these meetings begin with a public prayer that acknowledges a higher power that sees all things. In a recent meeting where the Tazewell County Board Chairman led this prayer, it was prayed that the one above could be honored by the actions and votes of this meeting. I want to state my approval of this prayer. But I now express my regret at the illegal actions of the Tazewell County Board Chairman concerning the vacancy of a Tazewell County Board member seat was filled. I will not go into detail here on the illegal actions other than to note that the one above was most certainly not honored by these actions. I further note legal actions were expressly aimed at making sure that the UCTC WEX ordinance was defeated, as the board chairman knew how the new member would vote on the WEX ordinance due to his position as Tazewell County Farm Bureau president. I have spoken personally with the new board member, Michael Deppert, and am satisfied that he was unaware of these illegal actions and did not knowingly participate in illegal activity. And I'm pleased to note that Michael Deppert was conflicted about this vote, recognized the conflict of interest, and sought legal counsel from Tazewell County staff, where he was wrongly advised that he could not abstain from voting, that he must vote yes or no, and, quote, "we hope you vote no," end quote. I express my regret that the one above was again dishonored by those who knew better and put winning at all costs above doing what is right. I now want to encourage the Tazewell County Board to do the right thing and nullify the illegal activity just described, and then start over on filling the board member vacancy by following the law. For myself, as a member of UCTC, I am thankful that it is important to the UCTC that we do things right. I am very disappointed that not everyone wants to do what is right. In fact, I recently heard that a current Tazewell County board member, after it was explained to him of these shenanigans, he was okay with it because his side of the vote won, even though the win was only because of this illegal activity. Even though I want the UCTC WEX ordinance to pass, I personally want no part of winning at the cost of doing what is right. Thank you in advance to our Tazewell County board members for your consideration of these important matters.
So I'm not gonna let that one go unanswered. You can always call me, Tim. I've made 15 appointments, and my time is, every one of them has been the same. There's 6 members on this board now that I've appointed, and to use the word illegal, I find rather offensive. You're more than willing to talk to me anytime you want, Tim, and I can explain the process, but to stand up here and accuse me of something illegally, I think maybe you should look at your conscience also. And we're not gonna get into a debate, that was public comment.
I just want to add that I did read the statutes and how that is to be done. So.
All right. We have 2 presentations this evening. Our first one is Chris Setti from the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council.
Let's hope this works. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you in advance for the investment that the Tazewell County Board has provided to the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council for as long as I think the GPEDC has been around. So I very much appreciate the opportunity to give you a brief overview of some of the work. Some of you are new faces to me. I might be a new face to you. So my name is Chris Setti. I am the CEO of the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council. We provide economic development planning and programming services for a 5-county area, including Tazewell County, but also Peoria, Woodford, Mason, and Logan counties. We've been in existence for 41 years now, providing these sorts of services. We are tapped by the U.S. Economic Development Administration on the planning side to be what's called the district organization. And that really helps us to not only create an economic development plan, which is called the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy for this entire region, but also then to go about implementing that plan. Our work with the EDA has been very fruitful. It's been particularly fruitful for Tazewell County. In the last couple of years, we've been awarded nearly $4 million, $3,990,000 through the Illinois Central College, Illinois Central College, for capital projects. One in $3 million in East Peoria for their Workforce Sustainability Center, which should be open in July or August of this year. And then another almost $1 million split between East Peoria and Pekin campuses for capital improvements to expand their workforce capabilities around welding and HVAC and over-the-road truck driving. I have a team of 8, plus a number of contractors and consultants. I see my friend Jim Cummings, who is a contract grant writer underneath the umbrella of the GPDC, has worked with you guys for years on some of your CDBG projects. We have 5 major areas, and I'm gonna, we do a lot of work, and in the last year, and this is based a lot on our 2022 annual report, and I think Mr. Zimmerman may have given you some postcards at our last meeting that you could scan, and you could find out more about what we did. But I'm gonna try to limit this because you've got, I'm sure, a long meeting ahead of you, and just kind of point out some highlights of what we did in the last year in each of these areas. So we have 5 programmatic areas outside of the planning work that I just talked about. And the number one of them is business attraction. It's the thing that we're probably, that people think about us the most, and being the marketing arm of the region. So my director of workforce attraction is actually in San Antonio today at a conference of site selectors. These are corporate management consultants who work with companies that are looking to relocate or expand their operations. And she is tasked with building relationships with these people so that when they have an opportunity, they think about us. So one of our successes, this is actually not really a success from last year because it's been a 3-year project, was working with Amazon on the distribution facility, the fulfillment center in North Pekin, so something directly impacting Tazewell County. I will never take sole credit for that work. We were a part of a big team that included Tom Camper from Joseph and Camper Real Estate, Mayor Flowers, and the folks of the village of North Pekin. But that's some of the work that we did to kind of help with that particular project. But we're always marketing projects and building those relationships. Those site selectors are very, very important. And last year we were able to bring in 2 groups of site selectors. These are people that are every day making decisions or helping their clients make decisions. And Peoria, and the Peoria area, I should say, is really just a place on a map to them. But if you can bring them here, just like any of you who go and visit someplace, you know it a lot better. So by organizing these familiarization tours, we're able to get these 6 different companies, 6 different representatives from 6 different companies to know what our strengths and our assets are in the region. So that's really important work that we do on behalf of everybody in the region. Business assistance is always really important. About 80% of your jobs actually come from the businesses you already have. And so many of you know Sally Hanley. She has worked for the EDC for nearly 30 years now and is an amazing asset that we have in our community. One of the big successes from this last year was working with our friends at the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission, of which you are also members, to reinvigorate the Heart of Illinois Regional Port Authority. Which is a creation of state government. It was actually created almost 15 years ago, but it's been dormant for the last 10 years. We have this amazing asset in our community, which is the Illinois River, runs through 4 of the 5 counties that I cover, that GPDC covers. And we need to be able to maximize and leverage that asset, because it's not only is it a beautiful natural resource for us, but it's also a potential commercial resource. So by reinvigorating that, through the help of the Illinois State Legislature, we were able to get $500,000 to help operationalize that Port Authority, and then additional money for a master port plan that is going to be underway here in the next couple of months. So some really great work that's being done there. I did also want to mention just very quickly about our work under COVID. Since the beginning of COVID, and we're not an organization that tends to work with a lot of small businesses. It's just not, that's what our local economic development and our chambers of commerce. But when COVID happened, a lot of the pain was felt by our smallest businesses, our bars and our restaurants and our retail. Over $5 million worth of grants were delivered with the help of the EDC in particular. At this moment, and next Wednesday, a grant application will open from the state of Illinois called the Back to Business Grants. This next round specifically for restaurants, hotels, and the creative arts. And so our organization is right in the middle of that, helping provide outreach and technical assistance to businesses. So, and we work with our chambers and other partners. But if you know of a small restaurant, hotel, and creative arts is very broadly drawn to include museums, performing arts venues, and on artists that didn't get any sort of assistance in these first rounds of assistance, please have them reach out to us. We have a website that's dedicated to this. It's gpcovid.com, and that's what we're here for, is to help your businesses get the assistance that they might need. Workforce is an incredibly important part of the work of economic development, maybe more so now than ever before. And anyone who has talked to a business owner lately and asked what's your barriers to growth, they will tell you that what they don't have is enough people to do the work that they need to get done in order to grow. So our organization works in that space between the employers and the workforce development system. The thing that I might be most proud of in the work that we do, and we're working every day on workforce solutions, is our Career Spark program, which is really about career exploration. We partner with Junior Achievement, and every year we host an in-person career exploration opportunity for every 8th grader in the region is invited. We had 4,200 8th graders come through the Peoria Civic Center and get hands-on experience with everything from public safety to agriculture. Really impressive event that had 400 or 500 volunteers that work on this. We actually added something for high schoolers called Career Spark Year Hired, which is a digital online version of the same thing, but it's really geared towards jobs. And we've had over 5,000 high schoolers, many of them obviously from Tazewell County, log on already and be able to interact with companies that are looking to hire students right now. Innovation and startups, another area that we're working on. The biggest project within this is Distillery Labs, which you might have heard of. I happen to be currently serving as the interim executive director of Distillery Labs for probably another few months. This is a physical space that will be in downtown Peoria, but it's really the center of the region's startup activity. And the programming is happening right now. And if you think here in Tazewell County that a physical building that is in downtown Peoria means nothing to you, I would tell you that you're wrong, because the programming is for the entire region. And just recently, a Morton-based company called SparkLearn, who went through one of our Distillery Labs programs, was connected to another program in which they're getting a $100,000 investment through what's called the Generator Education On-Ramp Accelerator program. That only happened because they were able to come through our program first. So it's a very relevant. When we're talking about ag tech, which our friends at the Morton EDC are helping us lead, Tazewell County is very well positioned to be a leader in agricultural technology. And then finally, in terms of rural outreach and development, I think right after me you're hearing from the University of Illinois Extension, and my employee in this area, Kathy Brown, worked for them for 41 years. There's Earl in the back there. I thought I saw you earlier. So I have probably the most senior and experienced economic development team in the world, between Sally Hanley and Kathy Brown, with almost 70 years of experience between them. I've got about 20 years, so we're approaching 100 years of experience between 3 employees. But we're really working there with your smaller communities. Kathy has really been focused on 2 things. One is broadband, and we work with a group of Tazewell County board members on broadband feasibility planning. We were actually just awarded a grant from the Just Transitions Fund that will allow us to actually pay for a feasibility study to even better understand some of the opportunities here in Tazewell County around rural broadband expansion. Maybe more important is some of the opportunities that are available under what's the Clean Energy and Jobs Act. And as you might know, the Powerton plant in Pekin will be closing in 2028. That has actually unlocked some opportunities for some funding, and we work with Mr. Delury and the rest of the Tazewell County administration to get an allocation of $460,000 through the CEJA grant process they call Energy Transition Communities Grant. So we'll be working with them. Not only do we help with the allocation, the application process, but now are helping with the public input process that you all will be churning through here in the next month or so. So really great work there. The whole goal behind the rural development thing, and I don't know if Mr. Imig is here anymore.
He's in the audience.
He's in the audience now. So they're working with Hopedale, working with Delavan, working to make sure that our smaller communities are connected to the same resources that some of our bigger communities like Pekin or Morton would be. And then finally, we don't do, and I've mentioned a couple of our partners already in the conversation here, when we're talking about junior achievement or Tri-County Regional Planning Commission or the Morton EDC. We're all in this together, and there's sometimes there's this idea out there that there's too many people that are doing economic development, and what I will tell you is that there's a big meal to cook, and that's why there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but we're all kind of working off this same recipe. So we all work really well together. And one in particular that I'm very excited about, there was just a presentation that was made last night to the Peoria City Council, but this is a regional initiative around talent attraction called Choose Greater Peoria. We started this at the Peoria Chamber of Commerce, the East Peoria, Morton, Pekin Chambers of Commerce, the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We started this talent attraction campaign about 2 years ago with about $80,000. The Gilmore Foundation is coming in, and they're working with the business community, and they're putting about $1 million on the table for a marketing campaign to talk about how great our region is to the rest of the world. Sometimes that is to convince ourselves that we're living in a great place. And sometimes we are our own worst enemy. So it is a branding campaign, but it is also a very ambitious marketing campaign. And our organization is very much involved in that. And I think you will benefit from that as Tazewell County, because it isn't about living in one particular area, it's about living in the region and taking advantage of all of these things that we have. So with that, I like to always say that I am infinitely reachable. Many of you know me. If you don't know me, you could certainly find somebody that does, and I'm more than happy to take questions now, but I'm always available, and my staff is always available, so if there's anything that we can do. We are your partners in economic development, and it's been a pleasure to start working with Mike on this, and David's been on our board for a long time as well. So thank you so much for your investment, and I'm happy to answer questions or yield. I'm probably over my time, so I have no time to yield, I'm sure.
Any quick questions? Otherwise, take down the phone number and give him a call anytime. So, Chris, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, one more presentation, and I think Chris introduced him already. Earl Allen from the U of I, and he has a couple staff members with him.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. It's always a privilege to come before the board. I try and do that a couple times a year, or at least attend the meetings and present one time. It's good to see everyone. I also see a lot of the new faces that are on the board here tonight. You should have a copy of our annual report in your packet, and we e-blasted the link to it out in January, and so you may have seen it electronically, but I'd like to get a hard copy in your hands. Take a look at it and read it. If you're a keeper, you can store it somewhere at your house. If you're a thrower awayer, I encourage you to share it with someone else and let someone else take a look at it as well. I'm going to give most of my time to my two staff here, but the last page inside the back cover is a listing of all our staff. We have had 12 retirements during COVID, the 2 years of COVID, and so I hired 4 new staff in 2021, 4 more in 2022, and then we'll be hiring 4 more this coming year and have a couple of those underway. But I wanted to introduce a couple of new staff to you and let them just kind of describe what they do. If you look through these pages, our staff pages, you may see some people you recognize. 2 of the more recent people that started were Kevin Brooks, our new farm business management and marketing educator. He started in December. And then Chris, you mentioned Kathy Brown. She retired and then started working for Chris, but We hired Richard Proffer as our CED educator. He started last July. He comes from University of Missouri with about 15 years experience there and had some connections in Central Illinois, so he was interested in this position. Becca Crumrine is to my left, and she was recently promoted to our SNAP Ed educator position. And then Caitlin Beekman is to my far left, and she is a community worker in the Tazewell County office. I'm going to let them say a little bit, and then we'll be done. And if Sue's still here, I want to congratulate her on our retirement. I saw her earlier.
She scooted out.
Is she scooted out? Okay, so the last
So,
meeting,
thanks,
okay,
Earl.
all right.
All right, good evening, everyone. As Earl mentioned, my name is Rebecca Crumrine, and I work for University of Illinois Extension through the Illinois SNAP Ed program. So you may be familiar with SNAP, or the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, but you may not be as familiar with SNAP Ed. So SNAP Ed is also funded actually through our Farm Bill. It's a federally funded program. So in Illinois, that is provided through University of Illinois Extension. And what we do is really focus on our SNAP eligible families and try to help make the healthier choice an easier choice. So through our work, we have different positions. Caitlin, I'll let her talk a little bit more about the direct education. That would be more of that traditional approach to public health and education where we're teaching families face to face. But then in my position, I work in a different realm where we call it more policy systems and environment work. So basically in public health and in any sort of education, we know we can teach, but if the supports aren't there in the community for families to actually utilize that, then they can't. So how can we make changes in our communities to really make those choices easier? So in my own position, I work directly with a lot of different organizations, such as schools, early child care centers, food banks, food pantries, any places that our families eat, live, learn, shop, or play. So wherever our families are, we want to be there with them. And I can work directly with them to make changes just in that environment. And then I also work in a lot of community collaborations. So I was actually in front of the board once before, so if you think you're having deja vu, I was here it would have been last August, I believe, and we did a hunger proclamation at that time. So I work very heavily in the food access space, as well as the nutrition and physical education. So yeah, that's a little bit about my own position. I'm gonna let Caitlin talk about the direct education.
Hi everyone, I'm Caitlin Beekman, as they have introduced me as. I am a SNAP education instructor with Extension. So like what Rebecca was describing to you, our biggest part is that direct education, and that's my biggest responsibility, is getting out into the community and partnering. We partner with the Tazewell County Health Department, some food pantries. Most of the school districts in Tazewell County are eligible for our programs. And what I mainly do is go into the schools. I provide nutrition education, physical activity education, and then also with our adult audiences, I can touch a little bit on money budgeting, and then also give them that nutrition aspect too. But yeah, that's kind of what we do in staff education. You would ask any questions? Okay.
So thank you for your time, and we want to keep working you, appreciate your support, and want to keep working with you and trying to make Tazewell County a better place to live and improve the communities and the people that live here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Earl, Rebecca, Caitlin. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so moving on. Can I get a motion for the February 22nd board proceedings and the 25th special meeting? Motion by Longfellow, second by Atkins. Any changes, additions, deletions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Down to the consent agenda. Let's see, item 11 and 17 are going to be pulled. Anything else? Item 5. Can I get a motion for the remainder? Motion by Rich Stimson. Yeah. Did you want to pull something else? Oh, second by Crawford, okay. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Can I get a motion for appointments A through J? Motion by Sin, second by Atkins.
Mr. Chairman, I am fine with seconding it, but I raised my hand because I need to be reflected as abstaining on, E 2337.
Okay.
I represent the Central Illinois Agency on Aging in my firm.
Okay, great. All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so noted, Bill. Back to the agenda, item 5, going to get a motion for HS 2317. You get it on the floor. Motion by Graff, second by Josting. Go ahead, Nick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked for this to be pulled. I had heard some discussion, probably when we were working on the budget, or maybe after, I don't recall when, that we seem to be subsidizing the city of Pekin's contributions to the animal control, and I'm not against passing that at this time, but I just would like to have some understanding, or maybe have the committee look at how fairly we do this assessment. I realize we are in a difficult position because we sell animal control tags or dog tags throughout the county, but I don't know how our usage works, and I don't know if the committee has even looked at that, but I would request that be done in the future.
And I think it's important for all board members to know what they're voting on. Mike, can you just give us a little overview on the usage?
Just right now, for the current animal control contract, it's recommended at a cost of $48,703. For the animal control calls, where there's a request for the service for an animal control officer to come out to a service of Pekin, it's 40% of our call volume right now. For animals housed that are actually in the unit, that they pick up within Pekin or that are dropped off by a city of Pekin resident, that is currently 45% of the animals that come in and are housed. And so from a point of comparison, our current budget for animal control is $610,000. So we're charging a cost of 8% of our direct cost. And so usually when you do fee studies too, there's a lot of indirect costs that you would also associate from the state's attorney's time, maintenance. And so it's been a little while since the formula that has been used has been updated, and over time the contract amounts just haven't increased. There's been a static base cost that we charge the different municipalities. Then we previously had factored in call volume and the number of animals housed. The price that we try to distribute among these different agencies hasn't really changed much though over the course of the last 25 years.
Nick?
Just as a follow-up, so if I heard that right, Pekin's responsible for 40% of our call volume, but they're paying 8% of the cost for the program. Is that what you said?
Correct, for the direct cost.
So of the animal control fees, and perhaps you don't know the answer to this, what percentage of the people living in Pekin are paying, so of the total animal control fees we receive, what percentage is attributed to Pekin?
We would need to do more analysis, I believe, to know exactly how many tags are sold within the city of Pekin. That is a little bit of a separate function, and that statutorily we are to sell the tags throughout the entire county, and so this contract is for specific services that we provide in addition to our statutory responsibilities.
And that's my point, Mr. Chairman. I think we need to take a look at this.
It's on the floor right now. So I just wanted board members to be aware of that. We can pass this and address it next year at budget time, but I think it's important to understand that animal control for the most part is self-sustaining. So the revenue has to cover the cost of doing business out there. And so, I guess for lack of a better word or statement, the other communities are subsidizing people in this regard. So, Russ?
And Mr. Chairman, not only the other communities who pay in to the animal control fund for their appropriate amounts subsidizing Pekin, but because there are other tax dollars throughout the county that also end up subsidizing Pekin. So it's wholly unfair. I plan on voting no.
Greg?
I guess we haven't raised contracts in a while, and we were very conscious of costs and stuff like that. You can see predominantly our money comes from tags. Maybe roughly about, it's 110 up to 120,000 is the total city contracts all together. So to say 8% on the other, everything else is tags or else other fees. So it's a bit misnomer. I'm not saying that we shouldn't look at it. I don't think we should get to the point where we don't pass it tonight. I think it's very something that we should look at for next year. I don't think it's as egregious as what it sounds. I think probably you're right, that the number of traffic of our staff is probably a little higher there, but it's not this 8%. It may be a little bit, and I think it should be looked at next year, but I think it should be passed tonight and looked at again for next year.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, personally, I think that all communities should be treated equally the same, and the formula should be treated the same for all. I don't support the other one.
Any other comments? Nick?
Well, in all fairness to the city of Pekin, I don't know that the city of Washington or Morton or anybody else isn't out of whack. I just heard some things about the city of Pekin, and that's why I asked the question. But East Peoria's may be wrong too. And for us to single out Pekin tonight, I don't think would be appropriate.
That's why I didn't do that. That's why I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Greg?
How did they come up with this? I mean, I don't know. I understand the process, but how did we come to this agreement, this amount?
Yeah, so there was an original formula that was created some time back where it was, there's three components. Initially, there was a per capita price of 46 cents. Then there looked at the animals housed, and this basically reiterates what Greg Sinnott said, as you try to look at 120,000 and splitting it between all of the organizations. So 40,000 was attributed to just per capita, that the animal control office is available to come in emergency situations or whenever calls may arise. The other categories was based on calls for service and animals housed, and so we looked at the calls that were coming from each organization and figuring out of the 40,000 how much was a proportional share. I think part of the issue is these baseline amounts didn't keep up with inflation and CPI and the cost of animal control. It stayed static for a long time, and so that's where we ran into a little bit of issues with the animal control being under budget. So in the last year or two, we have had some increases with the animal controls to go to CPI, but like I said, it was the contract in 1997 was $42,900, and today we're proposing $48,000. So it's just roughly about a $6,000 change over the last 25 years.
Vivian?
Thank you. Being on the Health Committee, when we signed to approve these, we were told it was a formula, so we didn't question. Now hearing this, I think maybe we should go back and look at all of them and make them fair. I mean, because I don't agree letting another township supplement another township.
We may have to do that next year because we've already passed most of our animal control contracts yet.
Oh, okay.
So Max and then Mike?
So going back to what you said about the contracts being about the same for the last 25 years, are you saying that the county has been unfairly subsidizing Pekin for the last 25 years because they are the largest municipality in our county, and presumably they would have the most amount of calls?
I would say under the scope of intergovernmental agreement, the county board has continued to minimally increase prices for Pekin, and when you look at what the percentage of this, 120,000, what that looked like back then compared to today, that certainly doesn't recoup as much cost of the animal control services as it used to.
So that we can agree that there has been some subsidy of Pekin over the last 25 years. So
Yes, for 48,000 for the contract price, with the employee costs all considered, that'd be usually less than one full-time person, and it certainly takes more time than that for the services that are provided.
do we know if this has ever been pulled before at this time, before it was approved in 25 years? Like, has anybody looked at this in 25 years, or why are we just looking at it today, I guess?
For myself and the animal control director, our history doesn't go all that far back, and so I can only speak to since the current animal control director is here and the documentation that she provided with the per capita costs.
So I guess my question probably should be directed to Mr. Graff or to Mr. Crawford over here, whether or not this has been reviewed at this time when it was already passed in committee, or we're just doing it now for whatever reason, I don't know.
We're just doing it now because we're just looking a lot closer at some of the things in our relationship right now.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, and then Greg, and then Russ.
I support Greg Sen's position. We're way past start date. Everybody signed up except Pekin, I think. And it's gonna take some time to review it, so I'm gonna vote to approve it and then review it next year.
Greg?
If we're looking at, listen to Michael speak a little bit, everybody's town is subsidized to a certain degree. Again, it's all tags. If you look at contracts we paying for it, nobody's paying enough to cover our staff to go do things. But part of this is our job to be going out and doing, it's a fine line, part of this is the job of animal control to be doing things. There's some extra services, yes, they should be paid for, but if you look at it, probably, and as strict those numbers, probably everybody is being subsidized to a certain degree, but we're getting the money through their pets, tags. This, again, I've been doing this for a while, we probably did it twice, we had, the tags were looked through twice, I was part of the original one looking at it, and, the original one was combined using number of calls, mileage, and population. There's some areas that predominantly have more calls, so they got charged more. About 15 years later, we kind of brought things together, more of a population basis, and tried to make everything a little fair that way. So maybe looking at having Jay look at it again to say that maybe we should start looking at more calls like we did originally to see what more services that area is required. Because in the original one, those areas were charged slightly more. So that and Jay, you could probably look into that.
Russ?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand that there's some people that just want to say, oh, well, we didn't get it right, let's just kick it down the road another year. Let the inequity go, let the other municipalities suck it up for the largest municipality. My view is that's wrong. That's one of the reasons that we're here. So my question for you, and Bill, follow closely because you may want to comment as a parliamentarian. Would you have any problem, Mike, since Mr. Graff points out to me that we have Pekin on the floor and we just took all the rest and approved them in the consent agenda? Would you have a problem, Mike, as the administrator, if we had a motion to reconsider all those ones that we just passed, and we take those, if that passes to reconsider, we take all those plus Pekins, which hasn't been passed, and have a motion to refer back to committee so the proper due diligence can be done and we don't have to wait a whole year of inequity before we fix it. That's my question, Mike.
So I would, I'll take that question. We actually passed some last month, we passed some this month. I think that train's left the station. The only point is I just wanted to make that inequity before we voted tonight. And so that's the only reason we're talking about it. Nancy?
Well, I would support tabling it, not tabling, but approving tonight's agenda. But I would also like to suggest that we not only review the animal control, but we also look at the recycling. Because I'm wondering if those are done in a different formula, and I don't wanna get into that right now tonight, but I think when we're talking about fees to various communities, I think we need to look at maybe other than just the animal control.
Yeah, well, we're gonna be looking at a lot of things over the course of the next year. You know, with animal control, the tags, the higher the price goes, the fewer people that get dog tags, and they take their chances. So we need to hit that sweet spot where enough people comply with the law and it's affordable. So it's, I mean, it's, I'm sure it's something that Greg, you probably dealt with for 30 years, and just trying to find those right balances. But thank you, Nick, for bringing that to our attention. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Was there, I had Crawford, who else said no? And Mingus?
All right, moving on, I'd like to get a motion to get this on the floor, and then we're gonna send it back to committee. Item P2303, can I get a motion to get this on the floor? Motion by Mennel, second by Crawford. Can I get a motion to send this back to committee? I think there's been some confusion. Motion to send it back by Crawford, second by Longfellow. There's been some confusion on what's with their bidding process. Are we bidding apples and apples? So all those in favor of sending this back signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Were there no's?
Yeah. Got it. Abstain?
Yes.
Okay. Then item HR 2305, update to the employee handbook. Can we get a motion for that? Motion by Nell, second by Sam Goddard. Mike, you want to cover some of the changes?
Yes, within the packet, there is a listing of the changes that have happened. Let me get to that real quick. Okay, so from an overall perspective, the goal of these updates is to make sure that we're complying with the current HR laws in place. And it was also to incorporate all the resolutions that have passed from the board that were inserted as separate resolutions rather than included in the body of it. And that also included several policies that were more so included at the end rather than directly included. So at the beginning, a few of the definitions have been updated. This year, there's a new act called Crown Act to create a respectful and open workforce for natural hair. So Section 2.3 incorporates it. There are a couple areas that are highlighted in here that we're going to come back to look at. That'd be the Position Evaluation Committee that has stopped forming, and we're currently having Korn Ferry directly grade the positions that come through. In the harassment policy, there's been several, that section was made so that it's incorporated and it's not just a standalone version. New to this year is a 1-day rest and 7 act, that's in 7.1. There's a couple minor changes to a few of the items. The travel policy was incorporated. Language was updated as far as vacation days to match the current policy. On a few family members were added to the bereavement leave policy to be in compliance with state law. A couple other sections that were added were the Blood Donation Leave Act, the Illinois Voting Law, and the Illinois Family Bereavement Leave Act. We also added the Victims Economic Security and Safety Act, or VESPA. In the health insurance and the dental insurance area, we updated to include that any employee working at least 30 hours is now entitled to be on insurance. That has been current policy, so it's just updating the language to match the requirements. We added some additions to the vision time and removed the credit union section that isn't anymore applicable. We're removing the employee recognition and awards section for now. That policy hadn't been in place, and we're working internally to find out, to work on a better practice and policy to bring forward to the board. There's a few policies that we still plan on reviewing, and those are incorporated here: the alcohol and drug testing, and there's a standalone vehicle policy in here. Finally, the technology policy and the identity protection resolution were more formally included into the handbook. And there is one item that we'd like to make a change to.
Yeah, in front of you in your packet, there should be a 2-page piece under the group health. If you go down to the section 8-9.17 life insurance, there's a sentence in red that the working a minimum of 35 hours and the life insurance differs from the health insurance, so that needs to be amended.
Are you making that as an amendment?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that amendment? Second by Kriegel.